Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the first edition of the new year of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I'm so glad that you've decided to spend some time with us this evening. I have a very special guest. Let me first tell you a little bit about myself. I am a public relations and marketing professional who has a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And hence, that's how this show was born almost a year ago at the end of this month. So later on, I'll tell you what we plan to do as an anniversary surprise. Um, I have today, we're going to discuss tonight what will democracy look like in 2023. And as you've already are well aware, it's starting off a little bit shaky, but nevertheless, let's discuss. And we have a wonderful guest to discuss this issue with us. We have the legendary civil rights attorney and NAACP and North Carolina Central University icon, Professor Irving Joyner. Professor Joyner is the Charles Hamilton Houston Endowed Chair Professor at North Carolina Central University School of Law. And of course, there's so many more things about him, but we would be here for a whole half hour with all of the many things that Professor Joyner is. So I am so blessed to have him on the show. Let me bring him up. Hello there.
Hello, Pam. Thank you very much for that generous introduction.
Well, Professor Joyner, I'm so pleased to have you as always. As always. Listen, everyone, I need for you to, if you're listening to us on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Like the video, and we already have a few people in the chat. Donna Fred, hello from Donna. Hello, Donna. Do you know who that is, Professor Joyner?
Offhand, I don't.
Okay, that's okay. All right. And Joelle Bond, hey, Joelle. Well, thank you all for greeting us. We're so appreciative. We're so appreciative. All right. So, Professor Joyner, the last time we got together, we were talking about the now Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And of course, we're talking about Trump. But I want to start this evening talking about the obvious, the 4-day and 15 rounds of voting to elect a Speaker of the House. They say that Kevin McCarthy gave everything away except for the gavel. And I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on that, and we'll dive into that and have hopefully our audience will have some things to say about that as well.
Well, I think it is an example of what we can expect over the next 2 years. The Republican Party appears to be in disarray, even as its ultra-conservative wing seems to be fighting each other. And I don't know exactly what that will result in, except that the fear is that the Republican Party will be more right-wing than it has been before. Because the hardliners, they are obviously with some grudge that they are directing toward Kevin McCarthy, has indicated that they are ready to tie up their operations. But for us, it was a dire prediction anyway. Even had there not been 15 rounds and this battle going on for African Americans and people of color, we were in a terrible mess.
Mm-hmm.
And the anticipation of what await us is something that, I'm very pessimistic about.
Mm-hmm.
And if we aren't prepared to fight whatever is coming up, then we're going to be in dire straits moving forward. So
Yeah.
this is an ominous sign of what we can expect. But at any point when it comes to us, there is always cohesion
Mm-hmm.
and similar resolve as to how the law and this democracy that we're in will relate to us moving forward.
Professor Joyner, I'm really confused. But around the first or second round of voting for the speaker, I heard and I saw on social media where they said one of the concessions that McCarthy made it was in round one, I have in my notes, was the elimination of the metal detectors. And so they did that already. And so my understanding is, okay, so he was making these concessions, but he wasn't yet speaker. So how is it that they go into effect? Or was that a mistake? Or was that probably somebody gave misinformation? I didn't know that they could go into effect unless he was actually the speaker or what. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Republican caucus and in fact the entire Congress will
Hmm.
have to meet to set the rules.
Okay.
The compromises that were made uh, are designed to be enacted once the Congress meets to set the rules.
Hmm.
And the idea is that if the speaker is pushing the rule change, and this would just be one of them, that the majority, which would be all Republicans, will endorse that. And so the agreement was uh, to rid themselves a lot of the procedural rules that cater to these right wing Republicans, and one is the ability to carry guns on the
Hmm.
floor of the Congress, which is
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
And if you're carrying a gun on the floor of the Congress, there's obviously some intent to use it
Right.
at some point for some reason. So the entire Congress is going to have to vote on what the rules will be, but Kevin McCarthy has indicated the ones that he will push to be enacted going forward from this day. So those rules are not in place at this point, but
Okay.
as soon as they meet to decide what the rules are, then those will be the ones that will be placed on the table.
Okay, okay, that brings me some comfort. Some comfort. So, Professor Joyner, according to the New York Times reporting, 12 of the 20 holdouts are flat out election deniers. And they were Andy Biggs of Arizona, Dan Bishop of North Carolina, who was on Meet the Press, by the way, this morning, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Matthew Gates of Florida, Bob Good of Virginia, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Mary Miller of Illinois, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, uh, Eli Crane of Arizona, Andy Ogles of Tennessee, Anna Luna of Florida, and Keith Self of Texas. And a lot of these guys really just kind of they haven't been in very long, and some of them, some of the older heads came about from the Tea Party group, you know, when they came about into force, and they just really just keep changing their names and stuff. And then, so we've got 12 that we know are flat out election deniers, according to the New York Times. And then, Professor, this is the part that's confusing to me, is that we know, according to the New York Times reporting, that 6 GOP lawmakers and now 3 who are former GOP lawmakers were actually involved in the planning of the quote unquote protests for that led to the January 6th insurrection. And they are Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, and Paul Gosar of Arizona, who McCarthy had admonished before for attending a white nationalist event. Mo Brooks of former rep of Alabama, Madison Cawthorn, we know who that is because he's former here of North Carolina, and Louis Gohmert of Texas. They're all former representatives. And so what I want to understand is, so as the special counsel, I don't know if he's involved in their prosecution too, or is it just he's solely focused on Trump? What happens to Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Paul Gosar, who are active members? And if they have been documented as having part of the planning, then what's the next step? What happens then? What are we doing?
Well, we have to remember that more than half of the Republicans who were in office in 2020 sought to keep Donald Trump in office and to disrupt the certification of Biden as the new president. The vast majority of them are still in office. Those who were not actively pushing that notion, but sat quietly by to allow that to happen, are also still in office, and that's outside of the ones that you have identified here. These are all right-wing elected congressional representatives coming from districts where obviously the voting population there supported these outlandish and undemocratic notions that they were promoting. If that was not the case, they wouldn't have been reelected in 2022. So when you talk about a Getz and a Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them, what they did was well publicized. And the people in their districts knew what they were about. And they voted to put them back in office. And that's troubling because that was a large number of people. So not only do we have those individuals who have demonstrated and antipathy to the democracy that we live in, but they have supporters in their districts that kept them in office, and we can expect them to show their true colors. And we just have to recognize what their true colors are. And in addition to that, I'm significantly troubled by now the inclusion of a few African American people of color who have joined this brigade and are happy being a part of the campaign to undermine this democracy. And in growing numbers, there are people of color who are sliding into this insurrectionist mode, and we need to call them out. Some are right here in North Carolina, in public office here in North Carolina, like the lieutenant governor of this state. So we have around us people who are in positions of power, who are dedicated to the notion of interrupting, destroying, or preventing this democracy from existing in the manner that allows for the people to express and support their will.
Latrice Davis, she's got another comment. And Latrice, happy birthday. She says, what I found interesting about the speaker vote was that no one seemed to care for McCarthy, but the hardliners didn't offer an alternative. Jordan didn't want it, and I read that Scalise didn't want it either. Scalise was a bad pick anyway, because Scalise, doesn't he describe himself as David Duke without the baggage? I think that's his moniker. He's David Duke without the baggage, and we all know who David Duke is. He was a Grand Wizard, wasn't he? In
Yes.
Louisiana. Yeah. Yeah. So that was another note that I had. He really doesn't have these hardliners. I don't even want to call them rebels because it makes them sound noble. These hardliners, that's the only way to call them. These hardliners, they don't have an agenda but to cause disruption.
And that seems to be the case. When you look at what it is that they are promising to do as the majority, none of it has to do with providing health care, helping to deal with the infrastructure mess that we have in this country.
Right.
None of that has to do with improving education in our communities, or providing for a better national defense. A number of other things that we find near and dear to our hearts. The only thing that they want to do, seemingly, is to cause havoc for Joe Biden, and
Right.
to come up with ways to embarrass the people who are in power, such as to turn the citizenry against them and what it is that the government legitimately is designed to do and need to be doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a question for you. Well, I got tons of questions for you, but let me read this by Latrice. She said she also read that McCarthy didn't become speaker last time around because he didn't have the votes. And she says, I don't see how he gains anything from selling his soul to this extent. I I don't know. I just think he's nuts.
Well, my response to that is that it's power,
Yeah,
raw power.
yeah,
As decimated as he may be, Speaker of the House still has power in
yes.
terms of setting and carrying out the congressional agenda
Hmm.
that the Republican Party wants to pursue.
Hmm.
So there is a measure of power that is there,
Hmm.
and even though he is in a weakened state right now, the notion that I am the power is something that is addictive
Hmm.
and controlling to a lot of these individuals. Nowhere do they talk about promoting the general welfare of the people or
That.
protecting the democracy that this country supposedly has been found upon.
Hmm.
And we need to make clear that this is an insurrectionist
Yes.
congressional body that is in control of our legislature at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ronald White says too many people don't give a darn about democracy. It's very shameful. I, they might begin to think about it more if they lose more rights. I don't know what else we can do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I do think that one of the things that we can do is to organize
Hmm.
among our people,
Hmm.
those individuals that we are in contact with, the people in our community, in our cities and towns, so that there will be more concern at the next election than they were at the last election.
Right.
I'm troubled, for instance, by the fact that since 2020,
Hmm.
we have had in the news every day information about what these insurrectionists are doing and what they plan to do.
Right.
Yet we had fewer African Americans voting in the last election than we've had since 2020. And we had fewer Latinos or Hispanics voting than we've ever had
Really?
in this country.
That's
So people,
thought we were doing a little bit better, Professor. Maybe it was on the younger. half of things, maybe. No?
I thought we were doing better until the results came out. In North Carolina, we had among African Americans a turnout of 42%,
Mm.
which was down considerably from the 80 some percent that existed in 2008 when Barack Obama
And see,
was elected.
right.
You
And
know,
that's the issue, Professor Joyner. That's one of the main reasons why I started this show, is for the whole education process, for people to realize that all elections are first and foremost local. And it's not just that you vote only in the presidential election. And speaking of this is going off topic a little bit, but I gotta say that I really was disappointed that President Obama didn't come to North Carolina and stump for Sherry Beasley. I really feel that his stomp, as popular as he is here in North Carolina, I really do think that would have pulled her over the line, over the finish line, because
yeah,
the election, all the margins were so razor thin, you
yeah.
know.
And that may be true, and I agree with you that he should have come, but
Hmm.
I don't lay it at his feet
Well,
because
yeah.
we missed an opportunity to get our own people out. That's
Hmm.
our responsibility. We
Hmm.
have to mobilize our community. We have to organize our community. We have to educate our community. We have to assume the responsibility of helping our community people to understand and to know
Hmm.
exactly what the impact
Hmm.
of their staying home is going to be, and we fail to do that. We all fail
Hmm.
to do that. And had we been doing what we should have been doing,
Hmm.
then Sherry Beasley would be in office. So we let her down. Not only did we let her down, but all the other members of the Democratic Party let her down.
Yeah.
And we have to admit it.
Yeah.
The whole Supreme Court now is gone to the right wing. The Court
Hmm.
of Appeals has gone to the right wing. The legislature,
It's, yeah.
supermajority with these, because we didn't show up and show out the way that we should have.
Yeah. Ronald Charles says we have to remember, to Mr. Joyner's point, is that they are reflective of the people who are racist and hardened in their cognitive dissonance. Thank you, Ronald. Let's see. We got a lot of comments. Loretta Thomas Walker. They call themselves Kevin. Okay. And Edith Lee Thorpe, that's your old colleague.
Yes.
I never understood if Representative Hakeem Jeffries would have even had an opportunity to have been Speaker, but I do appreciate the Democrats supporting him on every vote. However, I did read somewhere that the most times the Republicans could have voted was 19 times. Is that true? And at the 20th vote, if Representative Jeffries had more votes, could he have won at that point? Oh, that's interesting. Is that true about the most votes you can get is 19?
Well, that's that's not the rules. The rules will allow them to continue until they come up with a
Let's speak.
with a speaker. But
Mhm.
I think it is absolutely true that had Representative Jeffries obtained more than 218 votes, that he would have been the Speaker of the House, and it certainly we should not neglect the fact that had the Democrats been lobbying with
Mhm.
some of the more moderate Republicans, they might have been able to get some of them to switch off and to support Hakeem Jeffries for I mean, it's probably remote
Yeah.
that would have happened, but it was certainly a possibility that
Mhm.
the Democrats could have worked out a deal had they been able to cross the aisle and find at really what all he needed was 6 votes.
I know.
because
I
he
know.
regularly got 212 votes.
Right, right. Ron White says again, exactly. This is all about power. I didn't realize that power is just that. I think about it, but I didn't. I'll admit, I mean, it just seems like it's just the like almost a god to these people. McCarthy has the gavel. He's not interested in doing anything right by the people. It's time for revenge against Biden and the Democrats. They've already told us what's on their agenda. They don't have to tell me twice. We're lethargic about voting until it hits us in the pocket or until it has a direct impact on our rights and governmental benefits. Very true.
Right on. I certainly agree with that notion
Mhm.
that and it goes back to this point that who is going to protect us but us,
That's right.
and we are relying upon others to do for us what we need to be doing for ourselves.
Right.
I don't think that we can necessarily turn on Biden and the Democrats because our options are limited
Yes.
at this point, and we need to have coalitions if
Hmm.
we're going to defeat what people have already described as a formidable foe
Right.
in the notion of this Republican Party.
Hmm.
And the Republicans aren't going to wage that war on our behalf. We
Right.
need to wage that war. And as I indicated before, I'm increasingly disturbed
Hmm.
by the number of people of color who are
Hmm.
gravitating to the Republican Party as if they support
Hmm.
this notion or they just see themselves as being on a short line so that they can get into a position of prominence.
Yeah, that what's that guy's name? They even elected Bounds. Was it Bounds?
Uh,
Bound something. It started with a B and an S. Somebody put it in the chat for me. Fredia M. Butler, she says, I am concerned about when they start sending out subpoenas, what will be the response when they didn't respond when they were subpoenaed? So she's talking about she's getting into the whole thing with Jack Smith as our special counsel, I believe, appointed by Merrick Garland. And I had a whole question on that, and I've been putting all the questions that our guests have put on. Um, I think that that's what she's referring to. Professor, answer this for me. Okay, so Jack Smith, we're shifting subjects here. Jack Smith was named as special counsel by Merrick Garland, and from what I'm reading, it was largely because Trump announced his candidacy for president for 2024, and that President Biden is presumed to be running as well. This is what I read in Politico. But here's my thing. But why did a special counsel really needed to be hired? I mean, they've got all of these, they have so much evidence and stuff against Trump already. I mean, it's just so much. Or was it just political reasons to kind of push that a little bit off of Merrick Garland's plate and give it to somebody independent? I don't know. You tell me.
well, I think it is out of an abundance of caution
Mm-hmm.
that Merrick Garland is concerned about the integrity or the uh, picture of integrity if he is involved personally in the ongoing investigation of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to put it in the hands of an independent person who has no political connections
Mm-hmm.
to handle the investigation. Now, and your point is well made that the evidence speaks for itself.
Right.
You have to be blind and dumb not to see that Donald Trump was a pivotal factor in
Mm-hmm.
what happened on January 6th and
Mm-hmm.
the effort to undermine the certification of Joe Biden as president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the notion now is to make sure that all of the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed in moving forward with an indictment or indictments against him and any other person that may have been involved with him in what happened on January 6th. I'm hopeful that this special prosecutor is going to do what the special prosecutor is required to do when faced with this overwhelming evidence.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then this country is just down the drain,
Yeah.
completely down the drain. Now,
Right.
on the other side of they don't care about what it looks like. And already they have indicated that they are going to use their power to
Yeah.
engage in these investigations. And that's where the subpoenas come in, that
Mm-hmm.
they are going to call in these officials and make them take them through the same thing that the January 6th committee did with respect to Donald Trump.
Right.
And the question is whether these Democratic officials are going to appear or if they are going to resist in the same way that these Republicans did when they were called,
Mm-hmm.
and what is going to occur if they refuse to
Mm-hmm.
honor the subpoenas that are sent to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ronald Charles says, unfortunately, people on the right do not understand that the power they seek is only fleeting in the grand scheme because God has the ultimate power. Good, right will always win out over evil and wrong. That's right. That's right. I think he was preaching a sermon, and Judy says, power is an idol with these people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And since the founding of this country, it has always been about power.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, wherever you go, when you look at the history, it has always been about the right wing trying to control the power mechanisms in this country
Mm-hmm.
and to prevent African Americans from truly being free or
Mm-hmm.
free from the threats
Mm-hmm.
of reshackling
Mm-hmm.
that they continue to throw our way. They already now have control of the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, the
Yeah.
North Carolina Supreme Court, the
Mm.
North Carolina Legislature, the U.S. Congress, and we're sitting back still on vacation.
Mm. Professor, Latrice says it was Byron Donalds was the guy
Yes,
we're trying to think of. Yeah.
from Florida.
Yeah, from Florida. I have him written down here somewhere. I did. Anyways, I want to ask you this question um, about when you go down the investigative rabbit hole of accountability for January 6th insurrection. I think as a layperson that a whole bunch of new laws need to be instituted. They need to be created, Professor Joyner. And I'm not a lawyer, so this is just my thought. I think that Trump should not be able to run for any elected office ever due to his behavior and actions. We don't have to have him prosecuted just yet, but just from his behavior and actions or what have you, there needs to be something in place where he should not be able to run again. No person that behaves or does things that is inciting violence or whatever against our Constitution and against our country should ever be able to allow to run for public office. I think that we need to get on the law books rules for the Supreme Court justices, new oversight for them to recuse themselves or have somebody over them, because it's like they get to choose what they recuse themselves on. Who works like that? I
Yeah,
mean, everybody has a boss or a layer or something, and I just don't understand how they get to who gives them the right to recuse themselves. It's like they don't have any uh checks and balances there at all, because
yeah,
we get into that Jenny Thomas, listen, Jenny, Jenny's got all those text messages with our guy from North Carolina, Matt. What's his name? Meadows.
Meadows,
Mark
Mark
Meadows,
Meadows.
and all of this information that she was intimately involved in that January 6th stuff. At the very beginning on Twitter, they were saying that she allegedly, it was alleged that she paid for buses for the people to come to the Capitol. And then on Twitter, it was that information was taken down and it was refuted that she didn't do it. But then after that, we hear about all these text messages. So I don't know. Do you think it's any way possible that we could really get more laws passed, even the emollients clause, like how Trump made all that money owing property there in Washington, D.C. as president? I mean, it just makes no sense. We need to fortify some laws and create new laws because of our experience with him as president.
Well, let me just say, in response to the 2 points that you made, one, dealing with Donald Trump and his ability to run again, already in the Constitution is a provision that says that no one who has engaged in insurrectionist activity against the United States can ever run, be elected to public office in this country. Something that occurred after the Civil War that was placed in the in the Constitution. The problem with that is who makes the determination that he has been engaged in insurrectionist activity. Clearly, many people in the public has reached that point.
Yeah.
But now, does the Constitution require that he be convicted of this, or that there is some agency or institutional body which declares that he has been a part of this insurrectionist activity? Now, clearly, I agree with you. But the question is now, is it legal to prevent him from running? And what are the conditions that would undergird that, such that this U.S. Supreme Court is going to determine that it is constitutional to prevent him from running? Which leads then to the second point, that the Constitution, and this is what power is all about, the Constitution sets up the Supreme Court as a separate agency, as a separate branch of government in this country, such that they are the power. There is no one over that Supreme Court, in exactly the same way as that there is no one over the president, or there is no one over the Congress and the Senate, because the Constitution sets them up as being one of the three branches of government that is supposed to be checks and balances. The ultimate control here is going to be the people having the ability to kick these people out of office and replace them with someone who is going to honor the tradition and the focus of the Constitution, such that its enforcement is going to keep out of power these people who would seek to undermine the operation of our government and the protection of the democracy that we are seeking to perfect.
But that just takes so long, and we need Professor Joyner.
Unfortunately, that's where. But that, Pam, I'm saying, unfortunately, that's where we are. That's where we are. That's in this ordered democracy, or in this ordered set governmental structure that we have no option but to move through the process unless we're going to overthrow it. And clearly we're not in a position to overthrow it. So if we're not in a position to overthrow it, then what we have to do is to develop the alliances and organization that we need to make our voice felt and heard. And we can't do that with people sitting on the sideline watching things go by instead of being active components of the effort to ensure that this democracy is going to work for us. And if we don't fight for it, no one is going to fight on our behalf.
Mm. Okay, Ms. Butler says the people who are chairing these committees, that's what I'm talking about, sending out subpoenas. Well, we don't know who's chairing what just yet. And they somebody threatened the Omar lady in Minnesota with her being kicked off of committees and stuff. And I don't even know why. But one thing that really frightens me is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has literally said that she should get some power and some oversight of being over some committees because she's been all in 10 toes down for Kevin McCarthy. So I don't know. It's a mess.
Well, and I agree with Ms. Butler, that in the next week we are going to find out who the chairs of these committees will be. And Margaret Taylor Greene and Bobard and the rest of them are all going to end up in power positions on one or more of these congressional committees. Now, they can make decisions where they are, but that does not become law unless it is agreed to by the Senate. So a lot of the things that they will be doing will be puffing, will be theater rather than real exercise of power. But you never know what is going to happen and what the Senate is going to do because there's still a lot of finagling going on at that level. And we can't be sure that the Senate is going to have our backs or that we can rely upon them to keep ideas from from becoming laws that Joe Biden is going to have to refuse to sign. So we still need to pay attention to what is going on and who are these legislators who have control of these committees and be prepared to fight back against those.
E. Clement Swan says they've already started attacking Brittany Griner. I haven't heard anything of late, but of course we knew they were going to do that. But she's been pretty quiet now. That's been real quiet. Ron White says, I totally agree with the professor. Nothing is sacred when it comes to the retention of white power and the widening of the wealth gap. Ouch. Mic drop on that.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. White.
Latrice, 45 should be in prison, period. I agree. Judges aren't exempt from conflicts of interest. And listen, we clearly know that is a conflict of interest that he has with his wife being a participant, an alleged participant, I should say, in the January 6th debacle.
Well, we have to remember that when Clarence Thomas came into office, when he was appointed to the Supreme Court, he made it clear that he was going to retaliate against these civil rights groups, these civil rights organizations, these civil rights interests, and the liberal community for what he deemed to be an attack on him. The high-tech lynching. And he has spent his career in doing just that. And he is now in a position on the Supreme Court where he has allies who are going to go along with these crazy notions that he has. And a part of these crazy notions is that he is seeking to punish these liberal, progressive, civil rights organizations and leaders and principles that support our participation in this democracy in every way that he can. He's a bitter man who is trying to get revenge for what he deems to be wrongs directed toward him.
Judy Davis says January 6th set the tone for challenges to democracy globally. Bolsonaro supporters in Brazil stormed their capital in a similar fashion. I saw that. There must be accountability. There has to be. I mean, come on. There has to be. And Professor, to that end, I get so tired of hearing people say, the pundits say, well, it's never happened before. We've never had a president in this situation before. Guess what? If you don't do anything about it, we're going to see it repeat itself again. And I was just looking at ABC News piece on the insurrection. And one thing that one of the reporters brought up was that he said that the Charlottesville situation was a precursor to the January 6th insurrection. And I had never thought of it that way, but that is so true. It's so true.
Yeah, I think it was all connected. And you took it all the way back to the Tea Party, because that was the beginning of this, and this is just a continuation of exactly where it was that where the Tea Party wanted to come to, and now they have achieved successes in that the right-wing control of the Supreme Court, right-wing control of Congress, right-wing control or influence of the Senate, and they've obtained that. It's a long road. It takes a step at a time. And we need to be stepping in the opposite direction and pushing back against what it is that is going on. It's kind of like we just woke up from a long sleep to realize that we are still at the starting block while they're at the 50-yard line. And we need to come together, because these extremists are out there focused on negatively impacting our position in this democracy, and we need to come to grips with that reality.
Right. Ron Charles says most of these extremists, insurrectionist Republicans do not care about the people. They only care about making a name for themselves and again relative power.
And gain relative power.
Yeah, yes. That's what he meant. Okay. Jordan has said that he will be chairing the committee doing oversight over the Department of Justice. So what does that mean, Professor Joyner? If Jordan is going to be chairing the committee of oversight of the DOJ, how will that impact the investigation and the special counsel and all of that on Trump?
It's a clear conflict of interest, and he is saying clearly that I don't care about a conflict of interest. I am going after them before they come after me. They are not concerned about.
He has some culpability too, I think. I don't know if his name was his name. It was so many of them named in the January 6th report. I know you haven't read all 800 and some pages. I was hoping they would put it in an audio file where I could listen to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he is one of those that's been mentioned as one of the instigators, and what the instigators are seeking to do. And if you look at who they are, what they are seeking to do is to blunt the prosecution of Donald Trump and of them, or to make public their involvement in bringing about the things that occurred on January the 6th. If it's a clear move towards self-interest and to protect themselves, and they have made it clear, and they don't mind doing it. They have made it clear that we are going to use these organs of power that we have to ensure that nothing happens to us because of our involvement in this attempt to subvert the United States of America.
Now,
And we need to be loud. We need to be focused. We
mhm,
need to regularly tell the truth
mhm,
about what is going on in our country so that people will know and
mhm.
hopefully rise up against what clearly they're trying to do.
Right. And to that end, guys, all of you who are listening to this show, please share this video far and wide. It's easy to share on whatever platform you're listening on, whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Share it in your networks, because we have got that is the whole purpose of this show, is to educate our people, to educate people, period, in their best interest. And it's just not black and brown people, it's all people. And that gets me to a whole nother point, Professor, is that one thing that I think the Democrats fail to do, other than really shore up Sherry Beasley, because I think that they could have done more nationally for her, because I think she almost had it. She almost had it. I think that we have to talk more to our to people in these rural areas and what have you, because so many of them think that, oh, the Republican way is the way, and actually those people are going against them left and right. They don't want to do Medicaid expansion. They don't want to. They barely, look. One thing outcome of a pandemic is to get broadband all over the state, to increase people's opportunity to use the internet and what have you. So we need to we need to spread the messaging far and wide, and stop thinking of just educated people or people that look like me or whatever. So you guys use this video to spread the word, help spread the word. Latrice says the extremists may be on the wrong side of history, but they are organized.
Amen.
Yeah.
She's absolutely right
Right.
that they're organized and we are unorganized
Mm.
or misorganized, or
Not
we are.
yet.
I'm sorry,
Not totally there yet.
not there, not there. We
Hmm.
were,
Hmm.
but some people are still celebrating the victory of Barack Obama. That was 14 years ago. And we need to rise above our celebration
Hmm.
to ensure that those things that we have gained are etched in stone. And,
Hmm.
fam, in a very real sense,
Hmm.
we are going back having to fight
I know.
the wars that we were engaged in 1940, 1950, 1960, and moving forward. I mean, it's a sad commentary that
Hmm.
now we still have to fight back against
Hmm.
efforts to undermine the freedom of African Americans in this country. But
Hmm.
there has been a long march to
Hmm.
undo
Hmm.
those victories that we achieved,
Hmm.
and the people who are less receptive to
Hmm.
those victories are our own people who have benefited from it the most.
Hmm.
And so even those who are slipping over now and trying to be a part of the Republican majority
Hmm.
would not have been able to even think about that
Hmm.
without the victories that we've won in the past and that now they are seeking to take away. And we have to recognize that
It,
that is the goal.
it's unreal. Fredia Butler says Jordan received a subpoena, and what did he do? Ignore it? He just ignored it.
He refused to show up.
Hmm.
Yep.
Loretta says another goal, to stay in position for 2 terms to gain government pension. I didn't know. I thought, oh, you have to be in office for 2 terms to get government pension as an elected official.
Yeah, there's a and I don't remember now exactly what the exact number
Hmm.
is. I think it's 6 years that you have to be in office
Hmm.
to get a governmental pension.
Okay.
But many of these people have been there much longer
Yeah.
than that. But there are new people coming in that still trying to reach that threshold.
Hmm.
Uh, but what they're talking about is taking our money and using it for themselves.
Hmm. Oh boy, Edith's got a girl. This touches a nerve. What you're saying, Edith? Here, what happened with Jamie and his being the DNC chair? Is he still it? Yes, he is. I think there was a failure in his leadership with regard to the party. A lot of people gave him a lot of kudos, girl. They did, and I didn't agree with it. I also think we need new leadership at the DNC level. I do too. And you know what I think? You know who I think would be primed for it? Is our girl Stacy. She didn't make it as governor of Georgia, but I could see her, just her whole strategic thinking, her organization skills, all of that, which she brought to the table and made for Georgia. I think that she could do that for the DNC. What do you think, Professor Joyner?
Well, clearly she is able. She's capable. She's competent.
Mm-hmm.
She is a political progressive and is very clear on
Mm-hmm.
what needs to occur.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll say this, and this is a little slight pushback.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot put our faith in
Mm-hmm.
the Democratic Party. The
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party is a tool that we can use to
Mm-hmm.
achieve our goals and purposes, but we cannot put all of our eggs in the Democratic Party as if they are going to protect our interests. The
Mm-hmm.
only ones that's going to protect our interests is us. We
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that have to control. And if we control the Democratic Party to the extent that it does what is in our best interest, then that's good. But
Mm-hmm.
remember now that this whole effort at Jim Crow and segregation and the undermining of the rights of African Americans was started by the Democrats.
Yeah.
And it was not until the 1970s that they relinquished as a party that
Mm-hmm.
goal.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had the Dixiecrats that
Right.
controlled the Democrats. So our our resurrection, our ability to achieve what we need
Mm-hmm.
does not lie in the Democratic Party,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to use whatever vehicle we can find to
Mm-hmm.
ensure our survival in this country.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Professor? I agree with what you're saying, and I see what Loretta says that she concurs with you. But here's the problem, and I'm coming from the public relations stance, is that we have to be so careful with the words we choose to say, because the next thing you know, certain people who aren't deep thinkers and aren't thinking, what's the word I want to use? They aren't thinking as broadly as what your statement is stating. You feel me? So
Mm.
they will take it literal. Well, we forget about them. Well, what's the point in voting? And see, so we can't, so we have to be so careful with our language, with what we say, because a huge element of our voting block will take that to say, I see, I told you it didn't matter whether I voted or not. Because he said we can't put our faith in them, and not understanding the greater meaning of what you were saying. You were saying that we take agency of ourselves as individuals, as Black and brown people, as poor people, as people with some means, as people with education, as people with no education or whatever, that we take agency of ourselves, think, do, and act. And
Yeah.
then the Democratic Party would be, if they are the tool, the agency in which to maybe get things through, that we need to take more leadership in participating in it or something like that. That's more what you mean. But
Uh,
to the untrained ear, they will take it another way.
Yeah,
And
we have to help the untrained ear.
right,
Uh,
right.
what we need to always understand is that as a minority in this country, we
Hmm.
need allies, we
Yes.
need supporters, we
Yeah.
need people who are working with us. But we need to be controlling our destiny, no
Right.
matter what the instrument is that we use. And
Right.
the Democratic Party is an instrument that we can use. So clear, I'm not talking about abandoning the instrument that we can use to get power. But once we get it, we have to use it
Hmm.
in our best interest, and we cannot allow our allies to forget who
Hmm.
we are and the
Right.
power base that we bring.
Right.
And it's to that extent that I'm talking about not putting our trust, not laying our eggs all in a basket that we
Hmm.
don't control.
Right. Right. No. Right. I like that. Yes. Right. Okay. Ron says the Democrats need to improve in terms of messaging. Listen, Ron, we had a whole show last year about messaging, of which Dr. Judy Foster Davis was uh, on that panel. She's a professor of integrated marketing communications at Eastern Michigan University, and we talked in depth about that, and we'll have to do that again. I think we could have won more races in the red states and on a federal level had the messaging been better. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm proud to say, Professor Joyner, we were going to talk about some good things that happened, that the state of Michigan, my home state, did it. We reelected Governor Whitmer, Big Gretch. Big Gretch, they prosecuted those guys that tried to kidnap her and her family and do them in. We got Ketanji Brown Jackson as on the Supreme Court. We got Gen Zer, the first Gen Zer as in Congress, Maxwell Frost from Florida. Um, and he ran into an interesting problem. He used his credit cards a whole bunch and messed up his credit while he was running for office, and he couldn't get approved for an apartment. So he's got a lot to say. And of those Gen Zers, they're coming up and ready.
Yeah,
Let's
and we have the governor of Maryland
yeah,
is
yeah,
is an African American. So yeah, we have achieved some victories.
yes,
Warnock was reelected
yes,
in
yes,
Georgia. You
Lord,
know, so we have to now magnify
yeah,
and maximize
right,
those victories and not end up merely celebrating
right,
what is now history. We
right,
have to look forward to
right,
what is going to happen this year
right,
in elections on the local level, and
right.
then leading us up to 2024 when all hell is going to break
Oh,
loose. So
because we need
we have a lot to do.
now. We've got so much work to do now, right now, so that we can't, if we stay ready, we don't have to get ready. I think Latrice said that to me earlier today. We got, we got to stay ready. We don't need to get ready. Ron says, "Oh yeah, we read this." He says, "It absolutely." He says, "I think that responsibility falls upon the DNC chairman. It absolutely does. It starts at the top." And you know what, Ron? When I tweeted uh, um, Jamie about the messaging, and I tweeted him and the Democratic Party and all of that, he fixed it later on where I could no longer tag him on Twitter. So, here we go. Okay. So, Black Women Speak. Oh, wonderful. Hey, Democrats need to improve in terms of doing better in the community. Tired of messaging, do the work. Well, um, Black Women Speak, that's the problem. We really don't do enough of the messaging so that we can get people to do the work. I really see that those things go hand in hand, you know, really. But thank you and welcome. It's so I know that you've been following me for a while, but this is the first time I've seen you participate. Thank you. All right. Well, Professor Joyner, we're at 9:04. Anybody else have another burning question or anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or I'm going to let him go for the evening. I have enjoyed you. Happy New Year. We're going to, you'll have to come back. We'll have to see. We have to see what happens in the next couple.
Well, I just hope that our people continue to speak out, continue to speak up, act up, and do everything possible to wake up our community so
Yes.
that we don't have the debacle that we had for the most part during this past election. We got smoked in North Carolina. And it's going to take us some time to recover from that, but recover we must.
Yeah, yeah, we do, we really do. Well, we're going to be okay. We're going to make it. We got to make it. We don't have a choice. We really don't have a choice. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that I agree with. If this is survival for us, this is our life, and we need to jump on the bandwagon and start blowing our horns.
right, right. Well, there's some thanks in the chat to you from Ron White and from Fredia M. Butler. And Professor Joyner, thank you as always, always. I appreciate you so much.
Okay.
Taking time to come see little old me. I'm trying to grow this channel so that we can really educate more and more and more people and what have you. And I'm looking forward. I'm gonna make sure that I invite you to check out a show that I plan on doing on reentry, gainful reentry from the prison system. I have a
Okay.
sister here from North Carolina that's written a book on it, and she does programs on it. Barbara Gaskins, she ran for office on the eastern part of North Carolina. You familiar with her?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
So I look forward to it, and
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this discussion and all of your listeners who chimed in.
Uh,
And love you all, those that I know and those that I don't know.
and
But we are a team, and we're in this together.
okay, I've put all the other comments up, including Edith's and everything. Okay, good night. Oh, great. Oh, let's see. Oh, thank you. I gotta find out who you are because I don't know, but I'm so glad to meet you. All right. Thank you, Professor Joyner. Let's wave everybody off. You guys stay tuned, hit the like button, subscribe, and please share the video. Please, 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 so that we can educate more people. All right. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night.